Hello and welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia Pacheco, and I'm on a mission to help online businesses step out of digital overwhelm and step into their creative potential. This podcast is all about helping women get more in tune with the analytics and SEO side of their business without the digital burnout. Get more information about the podcast at digitalbloomiq.com. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. I'm Cynthia, your host, and I run Digital Bloom IQ, where I help health and wellness businesses get found in Google and heal more of the world. This is episode 208 of the podcast, and today we are covering how to measure SEO efforts. So I know that this isn't the first time I've talked about measuring SEO, seeing the return on your investment behind SEO, but I did want to come back to this topic, and this episode is going to be a little bit more conceptual. Like, I will be getting into some very specific ideas and steps, but I did want to point you in the direction of a few other episodes that I highly recommend you listen to if you are digging into this idea, because it's so powerful to be able to measure things, right? So measuring creates ability to plan, to strategically, think about how we invest into our different marketing. And there's some free tools out there that allow us to really easily see, where is the traffic coming from? What is the traffic doing? And we can tie it back to sales, to conversion, and that sort of thing. So some other episodes I recommend is episode 146, which is review keywords. So I have a couple of these review keywords with me episodes. So if you just search in the podcast, like review keywords with me, 146, and I'm just looking now, 155, I did another one. So there's a few floating around there. I might do another one at the end of this year. Let me know what you think. And if you're listening to the podcast, whatever social media you're on, just take a screenshot and tag me at Digital Bloom IQ and let me know, do you want me to do another review keywords? Because I love doing them, but I want to make sure that, you guys are enjoying them. Okay, another really great episode on this topic is episode 138. And there I do get into some metrics, some very specific, more technical steps around measuring SEO results, which I know you guys will love. And if you are just like totally new to this whole SEO thing, I have a great SEO tips for beginners blog post, which, is a pretty in-depth guide that goes through the pillars of SEO, some common questions that you might have around SEO and just like how to get started. So you can find that by going to my website, digitalbloomiq.com/SEO-tips-for-beginners. And if you just Google it, SEO tips for beginners, Digital Bloom IQ, I'm sure Google will bring it up as well. And that's just a great starting point for those of you who are like, I want to start doing this. I want to start ranking in Google, but I have like no idea where to start. So lots of great things there. And stick around to the very end, because I am currently launching something that is particularly helpful for this topic of measuring SEO efforts. And if you aren't wanting to do it alone, if you're wanting some guidance, if you're wanting some expert eyes on your traffic, then definitely stick around to the end. All right, so I'm going to be giving you guys a couple different tips and things to consider when it comes to measuring SEO efforts. So the first thing that is absolutely necessary, and it has to happen, is setting up your Google Analytics and your Search Console, and setting it up so that it's working for you. So whatever platform you're on, if you are on WordPress, Squarespace, Kajabi, anything, Shopify, all of them have the ability to set up Google Analytics. And you can just Google, Google Analytics setup for WordPress, and you'll find different options. I actually have my own Google Analytics setup guide. Again, if you go to my website, digitalbloomiq.com, and you just search in the blog section, that one should come up. But really anyone will do, because it's just about getting the setup and starting to capture data. And specifically with Google Analytics, something you can do is also start to track conversion and sales. So if you have an e-commerce side of your website, you can plug that into your Google Analytics, and you're going to start to be able to track your sales to visitors and visits, which is awesome, right? You can also set up this thing called goals, which basically are like micro conversions on your website, like email subscribers, opt-in downloads, anything you want someone to do on your website, and you want to understand, who's doing them. So if you have some sort of funnel, all that sort of thing, is just really important for you to track so that you can tie back those conversions with visitors. And I promise you, there are people on Google who are searching for what you do. And so just being able to really say, okay, this person came from Google, they signed up for my newsletter list, and then they bought my course, that's pretty exciting. And you can track things and get really specific. In terms of the Search Console, that's also really important, because we see it from the other end of Google in terms of how many clicks, how many impressions. So impressions are how many times your website is loading in the search results, how far down you are or how far up you are in the search results. So you can see if you're on page 1 or on page 50. And so again, these are really powerful tools, because you can track and you can see which keywords are leading to which clicks, and then which clicks and keywords are leading to which blog posts. And then you can decide, which blog posts do I want to spend time and effort on, because I know that these blog posts are directly related to what I'm selling, right? And what I have on my website. So the first step is absolutely getting those tools set up. They're free. There are other web analytics tools out there that are paid that you can check out, but it's just important to have something set up now, because it takes time to capture data. It takes time to capture data that's reliable, right? So these are analytics tools. They're not database tools, so they're not meant to be perfect, but they are supposed to give us a certain percentage of certainty around how visitors are, playing around on our websites. So that's kind of the first step. The second step is to get really clear around the metrics or the KPIs that are meaningful to you and your business. And I'm actually going to be doing another episode very soon about KPIs around SEO, because I have had a lot of people ask me, I don't know how to define these key performance indicators when it relates to SEO. And so I want to do a specific episode on that. But for this episode, some metrics that you can definitely get started with are clicks, conversions, even sales, that sort of thing. Visits are nice, obviously, seeing how many visitors have come from our Google search marketing in general. But it's also really helpful to actually get some sort of conversion metric, because it's going to be much more meaningful. And this is actually one of the things that I might as well just talk about it now. Our new SEO Season Society does. So if you haven't heard, we've relaunched one of our services. Previously, I was doing retainers. And I realized that for a small business to really impact their SEO, there was a couple things that needed to happen. They had to have this awareness around how SEO was playing a role in their marketing now, whether they were doing it intentionally or not. And they needed really clear steps around their keywords and content, because those were the things that they could most impact and just really get the best results in the short term when it comes to SEO. So one thing we decided to do in the Digital Bloom IQ team is to actually do two things. First of all, we have quarterly SEO planning sessions. So now once a quarter, we sit down with you and your team. This could be a content team, it could be a copywriter, it could even be a web developer, depending on who you have helping you with SEO. And we define the keywords that you're going to be working on for the next few months. Keywords are provided for you based on what you want to talk about. And that session is to really set the tone of, what you're going to be working on. The other thing that's going to happen in that session is just this understanding of, again, which metrics. So what happens on a quarterly basis as well is you receive reporting around the progress with your SEO. And this is where this metrics things, the metrics that we track through Google Analytics get tied in. So for example, if you say to me and my team, okay, we really want to see email subscribers for our SEO efforts, great. That gets set up in Google Analytics. And then on a quarterly basis, that's the reporting we look at. So it's not just clicks and visits, but it's actually seeing, okay, how many email subscribers did we get? And I think that's really powerful and really exciting because, again, of course, we want to see clicks and we want to see impressions and visitors. But if we can take it a step further, I think it just really impacts that bottom line. And even taking it a step further, being able to track back actual $ return on investment for SEO, that's totally possible, especially if you are tracking revenue and e-commerce on your Google Analytics. So the great thing about this round is that me and my team actually help you and give you some support around that conversion tracking. We don't actually go in and do the setup, but we support you and we make sure that it's actually tracking. And that gets included in the reporting. So that's really exciting. You can get more information about the SEO Seasons Society by going to bit.ly/SEO-Seasons-Society. You can also go to my site, digitalbloomiq.com, and there's a banner at the top that says the SEO Seasons Society. You can click on that. And we have early bird pricing right now. And then it's going to be open for the October cohort until the end of this month. So definitely check that out. It's kind of this cool hybrid between SEO consulting and kind of a membership. Okay, so let's continue on. So once you have your Google Analytics set up and your Search Console, you've defined the metrics that are important to you. The next step is setting up some processes and rhythms around your checking of these, of these metrics and of this data. So just like I mentioned in the SEO Season Society, we do it quarterly. You may decide to do this monthly check-in, maybe bi-weekly. I wouldn't do weekly unless you're, really wanting to dig in, because especially if you're starting out, there might not be as many variations on a weekly basis, but you can, why not? But quarterly is a great place to start, or even monthly, if you're wanting to get more awareness and learn about this stuff. So what does that look like? First of all, just building a step-by-step process. Like step 1, open up Google Analytics. Step 2, click to acquisition reporting. Step 3, look at reporting, document reporting, look at keywords specifically in Google Analytics. You're not going to see keywords. You'll see landing pages. So look at landing pages that are visitors that are landing from the Google search to our website. And, just building out a process like that over time and just starting simple can be really helpful, so that when you do this on a monthly or quarterly basis, you're not like scrambling and you're not confused of like, what do we need to do again? If you have team members who are doing this for you, it's great to build out that process, right? And if you find Google Analytics overwhelming, it's totally normal. I think it's just about starting small, getting used to the reporting, and focusing on the reports that are answering specific questions for you. You don't need to know all the reports and everything. And if you have set up goals and metrics inside Google Analytics, you make sure you understand the reports that you need to look at those. you understand the filters, you understand what you need to click on to be able to see all those things. And again, inside the SEO Season Society, that's done for you. So the analysis is done and the recommendations are tied to that analysis. So not only do we give you the numbers, but we also tell you, okay, these are some areas that you could consider impacting based on these numbers. Whether it's improving a web page, maybe it's changing up your keyword strategy, or maybe it's leaning more into the keyword strategy you have right now. And that information and that analysis gets looped into these quarterly planning sessions where we discuss what was uncovered. It's kind of cool, right? So that one part is the rhythms, and then the other part is one part is process, and then rhythm is just scheduling that time in the calendar, making sure that there's alarm going off, that it gets done, and that over time you're building this awareness, because the more you become aware, the easier it gets, really. It's just kind of like a conversation with someone. You become more in tune with how they talk, how they express themselves. And so when you're looking at these tools like Google Analytics and Search Console, I think for a lot of people, they're overwhelming initially because they just have never seen anything like this before. And then over time, you just kind of get accustomed to how they're set up. So that's how I recommend approaching your SEO effort, measuring your SEO efforts. Again, stay tuned for this follow-up KPI conversation, which I'm really excited about. I've never talked about that before. And if you want additional support, if you want someone to kind of collaborate with you and your team on this topic, definitely check out the SEO Season Society. Apart from this quarterly planning session and this reporting, you also get custom keyword suggestions, which are customized to your website and your business, where you're at right now. We plan around your content. So if you publish content weekly or monthly, depending on what you have going on, we make sure that the keywords align with your content planner and with what you're promoting right now. And then the other part of the service that I'm really excited about is this membership portion. So there's a private members platform, which is actually on Podia. And so there you can ask questions. You get to interact with other members if you want to. And it's really your space to just explore SEO as much as you're able to, right? So, if you don't have a lot of time, maybe you'll just make use of the quarterly planning and the reporting. And there's also a private video training library, which is completely different than my SEO course, because in my SEO course, I teach an actual process, right? So the SEO Season Society is more designed for businesses that don't want to learn kind of the A to Z process. They just want to know the basic things that they need to know when it comes to keywords and content. So they're very defined trainings that cover specific topics around using keywords, around creating great title tags, around content structures and blog post structures. So they're very, very much focused on the content part. We don't cover anything around technical SEO or backlinking at this point. So again, you can go to my site, digitalbloomiq.com, and just click on that top banner, or bit.ly/SEO-seasons-society. All right, my friends, this was such a fun episode. I hope you have a great day and see you next week. Hey, this is Cynthia, and I wanted to once again thank you so much for coming on and listening to this episode of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. I spend a lot of time creating these episodes and editing them and publishing them. So I would love for you to leave me a review, whatever platform you're listening to your podcast on, whether it's iTunes or something else. Go ahead and click on that review bar, give me some stars, and leave a little comment. That really helps other people just like you find the podcast and just helps them grow their business. And if you want to find out more about this episode and more about what I do, get links from the show notes that we mentioned in this episode, you could head on over to digitalbloomIQ.com/podcast. And there, the latest podcast should be published. If not, you'll need to scroll through and find your podcast number. Thank you so much for listening again, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. Bye.